years old. And I remember Dad.
I'm listening, yeah.
I remember all the boxes, and my dad transported fish tanks. He was big into the aquariums. He had a huge one and then 2 smaller ones. But I remember those and him setting those up, and it was so different. The house was so different.
Wait, he loved fish tanks?
He loved fish.
Fish.
And so he had.
You know how Dad?
He had
Yeah.
tropical fish. He had tropical fish.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So it was like a hobby.
It was a hobby, yeah. And so, I remember him getting them all set up, but I also remember the times he had to empty the tanks and clean them out. And
So you always had multiple fish tanks in the house?
Yes, yeah.
Big fish tanks?
Big fish tanks.
Not like our little tiny fish tanks.
No,
pretty
these
small
were
ones.
really, really big. But then, I don't know when. I think he got rid of it after we got a cat. And
Okay.
and he found Angel sitting at the top of the tank trying
Oh, the cat was trying to take the
to
fish.
scoop the fish out. And I think that was kind of the end of the fish tanks.
So they chose the cats over the fish.
Well, he didn't like the cat, but he tolerated it. But I think my mother had enough of the fish tanks.
Gotcha. Okay. So so I'm gonna just start with just kind of introducing
Okay.
the show, kind of, or
Okay,
the
sure.
concept. So as I explained to you guys on the phone, for me, it's super important to have memories going as I get older. I didn't realize it was going to be so important to me, but it is very important to me. So I thought it would be a good idea, instead of doing videos based on business, to do them based on our family. And I think I saw this concept, this Tales concept online,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it would be cool just to ask random questions of the people of the elders of the family. I don't want to say older people in the family, the elders of the family.
The last one's around.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So, but not more so for now, but for later on, right? So like for the grandkids, and then even their grandkids and their grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys both know how important it was for me to work to get Dad's name on the street sign.
Right.
And that's something that can never be taken away. So, the Padernachts, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations from now are going to drive by there, and they're going to know, oh, that was my great grandfather's.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder what he did, and I wonder who he was. And we don't necessarily have video of Dad.
No, he hated pictures.
Yeah. So there's not many photos. There's not many videos. I don't know if there's any videos at all. I don't know if one exists.
No videos exist.
So I wanted to make sure that we didn't have that problem with the people that are around currently.
Mhm.
I wish I could have done this for, Uncle Huey and Andy
Yeah.
and Lee, but unfortunately the idea didn't really come to me until now. So I figured
Okay,
no time like the present.
you got us.
So this is very simple, right? You have a bunch of cards in front of you.
Okay.
They're just going to jog your memory a little bit. Feel free to pick a card, read the question out loud, and then just kind of tell us about it.
What were your siblings like when you were young? Well, our siblings were older than us. Pam and I were, from Lee, there was 10 years difference. So she was 10 when we were born. Hugh was 8 and Andy was 7. So there was a big disconnect between it. Andy was more the one that was closest. So she was the one that kind of took us places, did things with us. But I mean, we were close to a certain extent, but not real close. Lee was married and had JR when we were 10. So, I mean, she was gone. So basically, yeah.
But still remember Ronnie, Lee's husband, Ronnie, was a big part of our childhood too. He was like another brother because he lived right next door.
Oh, that's
We
right.
just had a driveway between our two houses.
So she literally married the guy next door.
She did. She married the guy next door.
So he knew you guys when
From the time we were
from
4.
the time you were very,
From
very
the
young.
time we moved in, yeah, we were.
And what was Ronnie's statement to us all the time? Was it a true lie or a damn lie? Pat and I were like, true lie, true lie.
And what were their personalities like?
Lee was kind of matriarchal. I mean, she was kind of the boss. Hugh was so laid back. I mean, he was, I hate to say it, but I think he was henpecked.
Henpecked?
4 sisters.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
So, I mean,
And we protected him. If Dad asked him to do the backyard, to do the gardening, and he didn't get to it, Pat and I would be out there gardening just so he wouldn't get in trouble.
Okay.
And then Andy, she was very hard-headed and stubborn. And Dad and she always butted heads. As far as us, she was the one that would take us to the movies. Now Lee and Ron would take us out on dates with them.
Okay.
So I mean, we were close, but in different ways.
Gotcha. Okay.
So those are what our siblings were like when we were
They
young.
were.
Okay, so go
But
ahead,
Pat
Mom.
and I were very close.
Mom, you grab one and you can go for it.
Okay. Who were your childhood friends? Okay, my childhood friends. We had a group in Detroit. And it was Natalie and
Karen Hayes.
And they were all
Denise.
And I think that was it. Those were those 3.
Yeah.
But we played basketball together. They were our basketball buddies.
Okay.
Pat and I played basketball from the time we were like in 2nd and 3rd grade until I finished in my sophomore year in high school when we moved.
I thought you guys played golf.
Oh, we played golf too.
Now, golf was something that we did with my dad, how we started. And we did all the camps and all the stuff. And
The free lessons
you name it, we
at
did it.
the parks department.
But when we got to about 10 years old, my dad, we stopped in the summer having someone watch us. We went with my dad.
Okay.
So,
Well, he was a salesman, remember? He was a salesman for printing.
Mm-hmm.
and so we would go on all the calls with him in the morning. And then by afternoon, he was done. So he joined the country club. And so Pam and I just went along and we'd go swim or we'd play golf. And that was our summers.
He used to pay the lifeguards to watch us while we were in the pool.
Mhm.
And my one main memory of when Pat and I played golf, when we started playing golf, we were only allowed to play 3 holes at any one time when we were smaller. But we had a bag of 3 clubs. And my father would get his caddy out there. Now, the caddy was 6 foot something with these 2 little bags on his shoulders, walking us the 3 holes.
But that was the way we connected with our dad. We didn't connect with our dad in a lot of ways, but golf was one of them.
That's good.
And Grandpa was a scratch golfer.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was good.
Yeah, he was our best teacher, too. He could look at our swings and he could tell us exactly what was wrong that we were doing.
Interesting. How did he learn how to play golf? Any idea?
I think he did a lot of sports when he was younger, and I think he did. He tried out for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but
Didn't he play on the Washington Senators for a while? I always assumed he.
I just know that what his baseball career ended when the war came around. But
Because he went to the
he was in the army.
He was in the
army. But I mean, sports. He always did. I mean, sports. I mean, that was just his. And not sure how he got into it, but baseball and golf are very.
Yeah.
It's very similar. Like Gil did that.
Mhm.
He did the baseball and golf.
Yep. Makes sense.
So, but he was very good. There is a story about my dad that's really interesting is that Grandpa Jim, when he just joined the club out at Hillcrest, and so he was playing, and then these gentlemen said, well, you want to join us? So he said, sure, I'm new out here. And so he joins them, and he's doing fairly well. And so the guy says, well, let's play for $1 a hole. Let's play for one a hole.
Okay.
And so that was fine. And Grandpa played, and it got to the 17th hole. And the guy was losing. The other guy was losing to my dad. And he says, well, let's double up on the 18th hole. So Dad said, okay, $18, it's not, 36, not a big deal. And so they play the 18th hole, and my dad wins. And so my dad thinks it's $36. It was $100 a hole.
Oh, but one a hole, he meant $100
a hole. And this guy peeled off $3,600.
Really? That's a lot of money back then.
And so he learned. He said, up front, I have to know what the terms are.
Yeah. That's a lot of money back then, $3,600.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, that's a lot of money. Okay, so let's grab one more from your early life.
Okay, Pam.
What did you do for fun when you were a kid? What did we do for fun when we were a kid? Well, Pat and I were tomboys,
Okay.
to put it mildly. We were climbers.
Yes.
We had 3 trees in the backyard that we could climb like monkeys.
It's funny because I can't climb a tree for nothing.
And we used to climb roofs too.
Really?
We'd climb on roofs of garages.
Doesn't sound very safe.
No, Mom and Dad were never around, so we did, during the summer, we did our own thing. So we used to climb roofs. And we played jump rope.
Okay.
It was always nice to have a sister because we used to put one end of the jump rope tied to the fence.
And
then we could play.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So we could do that. We played all kinds of games with the kids in the neighborhood.
Now this is in
Detroit.
This is in Detroit. Now you were in Detroit until you were how old?
16.
16. Oh, so you spent your childhood pretty much in Detroit.
Yeah, we were there from before kindergarten till going into our junior year.
Of high
Finished
school.
our sophomore year of high school.
And then you moved to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Where in Oklahoma did you move to?
Oklahoma City.
And that was because Grandpa got a job there?
No,
Or-
he became the vice president.
President of marketing
Yeah.
for North Brothers.
Okay.
So he worked for North Brothers Printing Company, which was based in Oklahoma City, but because Grandpa did all the Detroit automotive stuff, he basically, Ford, Chevy, all of them. He was part of their. You see invoices today, that's what North Brothers did. They would print those automotive invoices. They repair statements, that kind of stuff.
So he got a promotion essentially.
Yes, he did. Yes.
But it was based out of Oklahoma City.
So we had to move from Michigan to Oklahoma City. That was the worst.
And
move.
if you guys were 16, that means Aunt Andy, Uncle Huey, and Aunt Lee were already out of the house. They were already.
Uncle Hugh moved with us. Aunt Lee and Uncle Ronnie, they were married, had kids. Andy had a job at a school district there, and so she stayed. And then it was the rest of Pam and I and Grandma and Grandpa.
That must have been tough to move to a new city when you're 16 without.
Oh, it was terrible. We thought it was great at first until we went into the school.
And it
And it was
was
Bishop McGinnis High School. Now you have to understand, Pat and I went to a high school, Dominican High School in Detroit, all girls school, and was the high school we really wanted to be at. Then to move to Bishop McGinnis, which was a co-ed school. And they made fun of us from day one
Really?
because Pat and I dressed alike.
No, I'm not surprised.
Well, we decided we'd dress alike on the first day and get all the twin thing
Out of the way.
But they made such fun of us. I mean, really down. Do you wear the same underwear?
Oh.
You know, and so Pam and I just went home. We said, "You're done. We're just going to dress alike," and we did.
And you still do.
And I still remember going into the principal's office. He was the priest who was ever the head of the school. And I told him, I said, look, the next person, the next guy that opens his mouth to us, I'm going to put him up against the wall. And he's looking at me as if to say, and I did. They made fun of us, and I shoved him right up against the locker. And he walked by, and he didn't say a word.
So that was some adjustment.
But Pat and I were tough. I was more tough than Pat.
That was some adjustment, huh?
It was an adjustment. And in fact, my mother's first parent interview with one of the nuns, she said, I can't understand your children. They've got an accent. And they talk too fast.
Oh, yeah, well, that's not surprising.
We had an accent.
Because you came from the city, essentially, and then you moved out to, I guess, obviously, the...
But
sticks,
Oklahoma,
maybe.
we had an accent.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
Y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, we used to laugh because we'd have these reading things, and they'd start reading, and I'd be going, come on, speed it up.
Yeah. I get that now, obviously, now, because we're from here. So every time I go somewhere, everybody's just like, you have an accent. So it's the same thing, the same difference.
It is.
Okay, so early life, we're covered. Now we're going to go, what is the next? Midlife. So let's see what you got there. Read the question if you don't mind.
What have you learned the most from your spouse? What did I learn most from your father? Patience.
Okay.
Really, patience. Because he was the most slowest moving when it came to things. We were late for everything, which I hated.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
He hated to do things. It was his way or the highway. Nope. That's the most I learned about your father.
How to be patient.
Patient.
Yeah.
How about you, Aunt Pat? What have you learned the most from Uncle Greg?
What did I learn from Uncle Greg? Well, I mean, like your mom says, patience. But I think I learned to be a kinder person. You know, he is so generous with helping others. And being an attorney, you know, he helps them in certain ways. But, you know, there are a lot that'll come in the door and he'll help them, and then they don't pay him. And a lot of times, you know, he'll just write that off.
Yeah.
Well, you know that from your
Sounds
father.
like Dad, too.
And you know what your dad did? He used to give these apartments
Yeah.
practically away
Yeah.
to kids who, or even people who didn't have any credit. And they said, I'll give you a break, you know?
Sounds like you guys married very similar men.
We did.
Yeah. I always said your father was a better Christian than I was.
He wasn't even a Christian.
No, yes.
In a way, he was.
Yeah, well, I remember him at midnight mass, and I remember him,
Mhm.
you know, watching Robert Schuller every Saturday or every Sunday.
Yeah, no, he was one of those that you call them Jews for Jesus.
Yeah.
He believed that Jesus was a great prophet.
Yeah.
He couldn't get quite past that he was God,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he believed in a lot of his things.
Well, I told you that when we found out that he didn't have much time, that I called Robert Schuller, right? And then Robert Schuller called me back and said a prayer on the phone with me.
Mm-hmm.
That was really interesting.
Yes.
That he did that. I mean, the guy I see a number calling from California, and this is before Robert Schuller passed away. And like I called him and left a message, and he just called me back like he was a buddy. He was like, "Oh, is this Steven Padernacht?" I'm like, "Yeah." And you could tell by his voice, like I heard his voice so many times
You knew who it was.
that I knew exactly. I was like, he was like, this is Robert Schuler, and I hear that your father's not doing well. Would you like to say a prayer for him? I was like, yeah, go ahead. Go for it. Yeah, go for it. So that was interesting. Okay, all right. So next question, Pat, your choice. Dealer's choice.
Dealer's choice. What was one of the most difficult parts of your marriage at that time? I don't know what time they're talking about.
Feel free to move on if you'd like.
I think so.
Yeah,
I
go
don't
right,
think
go
we
for
have. I mean, every marriage
Yeah.
has difficult times. I mean, good
Yeah.
heavens. Where did you go on your honeymoon? Our honeymoon. We went to Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
Greg and I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, but we went down for a weekend to go to Dallas. We got a nice little room, and a friend of ours said, go to this restaurant. And so we did. So we did a 3-day honeymoon. We drove down and drove back.
Very simple.
Very simple.
Very simple.
Yes, very simple.
So you met Uncle Greg where?
I was a blind date.
Oh, really?
It was a blind date. Being single, your mother had left and married Howie. So I was kind of on my own. I was living at home with Grandma and Grandpa, and I didn't have too many friends because I'd gone away to college and came back. So I was babysitting Uncle Hugh and Aunt Marilyn, Jamie, their son.
Oh, okay.
Jamie.
Cousin James, okay.
He was just a young baby, and they were going out with friends, and they had a baby about the same age as James. So they asked if I'd watch both babies while they went out. Unbeknownst to me, they decided, Marilyn and Mary Price said, she's a real nice girl. I know this. Mary said, I've got a friend, this guy, we might have him call her and see if they want to go out.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so a couple weeks later go by, I get this call from this man, and Greg introduced himself, and I said, and he says, I like hockey. He said, do you like hockey? I said, sure, I love hockey. So he said, well, you want to go out Saturday to the hockey game? I said, okay. So he picks me up, and he knocks on the door, and I told Grandpa, I said, listen, I'm so tired of going out with short guys. If he's really, really short, just tell him I'm sick or something. And Grandpa opens the door, and Grandpa's 5'9", and there's a 6'2" guy. So he let him in, and so we went to the hockey game, and this date couldn't have gone worse.
Really?
Yes. We were in the nosebleed section, and I had gotten a new blue suede coat, and he got a new London fog coat. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know it was new, but he had this London fog. And during the game, you rub shoulders and stuff. He looks down and has blue dye all over.
From your jacket.
All over. And the guy behind us, this drunk, turns to Greg, taps him on the shoulder, and says, did your girlfriend do that? He says, she's not my girlfriend. It won't be after this night either.
How'd that work out, huh?
So I guess I kissed well because he called me.
Oh boy, okay. How about you, Ma? Did you have you had 2 weddings, right?
Yep, I had 2 weddings.
No
honeymoon.
No honeymoon, just the Bronx.
No, just the Bronx.
Well, tell me about your 2 weddings. You got married first where?
First in Oklahoma.
Okay, with your family.
With my family, and then we came 10 days later. We had one here at the Jewish Synagogue, the Reformed Jewish Synagogue, in Riverdale.
And this was because, I guess, family was just all over the place? Your family was in Oklahoma?
No, at that time, we just kept the families apart because Jewish and Catholic did not marry. We were very unusual that we even stayed together because most couples didn't.
That were from different faiths?
But we were bound and determined that we're going to let his mother think what she
One thing.
and the other family, the other side of the family.
So, but didn't your didn't like your parents think it was weird that none of his family was at the wedding?
No.
Yes, they did. Yes, they.
And vice versa. Like, don't they think like? Let me ask you a question. Did your parents meet
Yes.
Dad's parents?
Yes.
Eventually.
No, they did. They met. Yeah, they did.
Before you got married?
No, they
Oh, no,
they
did
didn't.
not.
No, they didn't. No.
I
Really?
think when Michael was born was the first time they met.
Wow.
Maybe.
So-
Yeah. We kept them really separate.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah,
Apparently.
because Howie's mother always kept thinking, your grandmother always kept thinking that we were going to raise you guys Jewish.
Yeah.
And Howie, your dad, from the day get-go, he says, no, they're going to be the faith of the mother.
Yeah. But Grandma never really knew that, and until she
No,
passed.
you blurted it out one day.
I mean.
Yeah, you didn't. You
Well,
didn't know. And there's your brothers going.
Yeah. Yeah, but she still acted like she
Oh,
didn't. But
yeah.
she
You
still-
know, when you went to visitation, when you fifth grade, when
Fifth
you
grade,
moved to
yeah.
fifth grade. Do you know what your grandmother told everybody down at Century Village?
What?
That there was a Hiva school in the basement
Oh, yeah.
of visitation.
Good old Grandma. All right. Okay, so let's move on to reflection, later life and reflection. What do you got there, Mom?
No.
No, I don't think it says at my funeral I hope to be described as.
Well, feel free to skip it.
Well, I want to be described as being a kind, loving person,
Yeah, okay. That.
I'm going to be described as a crotchety old bitch.
It's weird to think about that stuff, right? Like,
It is.
but they say that like you should live like so you have the year that you're born and the year that you die, and then you have that dash in the middle, and life is really just about that dash.
Yeah.
So it's funny that the two of you don't really want to answer the question. Maybe I guess as you get older in life, you don't really want to think about it. But like I personally try to think about that only because like it almost is like a guiding star, right?
Yeah.
Like make good decisions
Yeah, no,
because that
that's-
would
I just want to be considerate and kind, and I still remember your dad's funeral.
Yeah.
Oh my God! At that wake that one night, I was consoling people
Yeah, I remember that.
because he was such a. It was like, what am I going to do without him?
Yeah.
That's kind of like what I want to be
Yeah, I
described
remember.
as I go. That when somebody's going to really miss me when I'm gone.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I hope the same thing. I mean, I hope that all the things I've done throughout my life, people will think that, yeah, she really did work hard. She did what God wanted her to do
Mhm.
and turned out to be a good life.
Yeah. It's funny. Like I don't really go to church a lot, but lately I've been getting more in touch with my faith. And I have a prayer, and part of my prayer is that I ask God for the strength to be the best version of myself and to walk in His. I don't want to say shadow. I don't say shadow. I say shadow, but what I mean is do what He wants, as close to doing what He wants me to do as possible.
Yeah.
And I get that from you and Dad, obviously, because growing up it was always just do the right thing. Like Dad always said, just treat others as you want to be treated, which is obviously the golden rule. Like there's the 10 Commandments, but there's a golden rule, and I feel like the 10 Commandments and church in general, like it's all man-made, but like the golden rule, I feel like
the Ten
it's not.
Commandments are kind of like God's rules.
Yes, but they're also them being interpreted how many times over. Like
Yeah.
the first is keep holy the Sabbath. Am I right? Is that the
Go to mass.
right?
Go
So
to church.
but the golden rule is like universal. It could be for any religion, any sort
Right.
of humanity.
Do
So
unto others as you want others to do unto you.
exactly. All right, so let's do one more late life and reflection. Let's see what you got there.
What is the scariest thing that has ever happened to you? Scariest thing. The scariest thing is when Dad was diagnosed. And what we had to go through, that scary period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the scariest time for me. That it would be like, okay, what am I going to do when it comes to that point?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was not I was not the bravest person at the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a very, very tough time, and that is, I don't know if I would describe it as scary for me, more so just unknown and just not rest. It's different, I guess, right? Because like that's your partner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you're with somebody every single
yeah.
day for, at that point, 30, how many years were you married? I mean,
at that point, it must have been 40. Was it 40?
Probably about 40 years, maybe.
Yeah, because
30,
he's been gone 15 years. And
Yeah.
it would have been 52.
Yeah, so
for us.
37 years. Like,
Yeah.
and you're, so I get it, right? Like, but for me, I was like, all right, what do I do without my dad? And it's kind of normal, right? Like, it's normalized in society. Like, all right, your parents pass away, and then you know, but yeah, I could, yeah, I hear you. And Pat, how about you?
I don't know if we could. The scariest thing that ever happened to me.
You want to pick another one? Feel free if you want.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, let me try some.
Yeah, go for some easy.
I
Since
mean,
it's
I
supposed to be
really
nerve-wracking.
don't have scary. Thoughts. What is the most significant loss you have experienced? Well, there's been several, but losing my older brother and my two sisters. I think those were significant losses, as well as my parents. Pam and I were so young. We were in our early 30s when we lost our parents.
You weren't even born yet.
No?
Yeah. John wasn't born either. I mean, Gil was just tiny baby.
Well, Gil might not have been born. If I wasn't born, then Gil wasn't born.
No, I think it was just Elizabeth.
And probably just Elizabeth. I don't remember your parents at all.
Uh-huh.
I'm born in 81,
You
so...
did see my dad once. You were just about a year and a half or two.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I know Gil was born because Dad came up and watched him for me. But to lose them and then to lose my brothers and sisters, but I think the most significant one was when we lost Scott, and that was the hardest because Elizabeth was all alone. And we had those two tiny babies.
Mm-hmm.
And what were we going to do? And I'm so thankful Greg was the attorney, and Scott's father was such a businessman and had a lot of, so between the two of them, I mean, they really smoothed the way for Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Which was helpful.
Well, I guess maybe because you're seeing the hurt that it's causing your child.
Yes. Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's right, the hurt that you have when you lose your parents, the hurt that
Yeah.
you have when you lose your brothers and sisters. I don't know that hurt, but seeing Scott, because of the hurt that it caused Elizabeth, and now thinking about the future of Jameson and Olivia.
Yeah, that was a hard one. It was really hard.
I think that, you know, Scott was such an amazing person, and he's such a big personality.
Yeah.
That also kind of played into it too, because he was always like everybody. He was just talking to everybody, and it's like he was such an amazing person. And then to lose him like that, and I think you and Uncle Greg did an amazing job, and obviously Scott's family too, being there to support Elizabeth, and just to see Jameson and Olivia now happy and moving forward in their lives. I mean, you know, like it's just.
And that was Elizabeth's wish all along, is that she did not want them to be able to be defined by that. She wanted them to grow up to be happy, well-adjusted children, and I think that's been accomplished.
Good. Okay, so final thoughts. You know, you guys now are, let's see, so you're born June 19th, 1949. Who's older? By how many minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. So you didn't have a twin for 5 minutes, but they knew that twins were coming, right?
No,
We were surprised.
Wait,
even,
what?
even to the doctor, we were surprised.
Wait, how is that? Oh, I guess maybe back then they didn't have the
Well,
sonograms.
they had none of that.
But usually,
I'm sorry. So hold on. So you're born, and they're like, all right, cool, it's done. All right, and then all of a sudden, wait a second, there's another baby in there coming.
yes.
Wow.
We had synchronized heartbeats. So the doctor only heard
One strong heartbeat.
Oh.
And we were so tiny that,
I mean, we were less than what,
A cup.
2 pounds of peas.
and we were the size of an 8-ounce Coke bottle.
Really?
That's how tiny we were.
How big was I when I was born?
You were almost 10 pounds. You were
I
now
was 5 times the size of you guys when I was born.
Yes.
and you were
Jeez
like
Louise.
25 inches long.
Jeez Louise. And you guys were 2 pounds, you said?
Yeah. And then we went down to 1.
Oh boy. So was it tough when you guys were first born? Like, were you guys sickly?
No, not really.
No?
No.
Just twinsies?
Just twinsies, I mean, and we would, when would they put us in, those little bassinet things, they'd put one at the one end and one at the other. And the doctor would get really mad at the nurses, like, what the heck? I told you to keep them apart. We would scooch
Just
until
naturally.
we were, and
Just
so,
naturally.
I mean, and he watched and he finally,
Uh-huh.
let it go. Can't do it.
And we did that in our cribs too.
Really?
Yeah.
Just
When we were
look.
just a little bit older, we would rock the cribs together, and one would climb into the other.
Well,
Until my mother watched it one night, and she said, "That's it. The cribs went down." She went out and bought a double bed box springs and mattress, and that's how we slept. We slept in the middle of the of the mattress. Never moved. But that's what we had to be.
you guys would consider yourselves to be your best friends,
Yes. Mhm.
right? Like that is, it's such a testament to, because you see a lot of siblings aren't, like you just said it before, right? Like you weren't so close with your siblings, and I get it, the age difference, but like to see the two of you, it's like, and it's so funny, the identical aspect of it, as you're getting older, it's more the similarity. Like I could obviously always, like somebody asked me like, oh, because they heard me like on speakerphone and they're like, oh, can you tell your, I said, of course I could tell my mom from my aunt, but for the outside untrained eye, people come up to you thinking that you're her.
At Michael's birthday party, they did that to me. They'd come over, oh, it's so good to see you and hug me. And do you know what I do?
Just hug them.
I just hug me and say, yeah, it's really good to see you.
Yeah. Do you get that when you go to Oklahoma?
Yeah. So but it's always been, I mean, we've always been close. And I know it's because of our older siblings that we just had each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And would you like to say anything to 3 generations from now, from Grandma Pam and Grandma Pat?
The only thing I can tell you is just to grow up to be a kind and loving person and be the best you can be.
I think she said it all. I think I really want my future children's grandchildren, great-grandchildren, I want them to be good people. I want them to be loving and caring for each other and others.
Well, I would just like to say that I would like to just say thank you to the both of you for being who you are to me in my life. And the both of you have played such an instrumental part in my, even though you're states away, like you're still like a mother to me. So thank you both. I truly appreciate
Well,
it.
we love you.
Yes, and I love you guys as well.
Okay.
All right. So that's Tales episode 1. We're gonna see who we're gonna get next week. And thank you for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that.